I watched my neighbor murder my wife on our baby monitor 3 weeks before it actually happened. Let me explain, because I know how insane that sounds. I'm a software engineer, not some psychic fortune teller. I deal in logic, code, and provable facts. But what I saw that night defied every rational explanation I could think of, and it saved my family's life. It started with Luna's new baby monitor. Vivian insisted we get the most advanced one available. 4K resolution, AI-powered motion detection, cloud storage, the works. Nothing but the best for our little girl, she'd said, cradling our 3-month-old daughter. The first sign something was wrong came during installation. The monitor kept picking up interference from somewhere nearby. Random video feeds would flicker across the screen, brief glimpses of what looked like other rooms, other houses. The tech support guy said it was normal in dense neighborhoods, just wireless signals bleeding through. Just ignore the ghost feeds, he'd laughed. Focus on your own baby. If only I had. The night everything changed, I was doing the 2 a.m. feeding when the monitor screen flickered. Instead of Luna's peaceful nursery, I was looking at what appeared to be my own living room. But something was off. The furniture was arranged differently. The walls were painted a color we'd never chosen. And there was a woman I didn't recognize sitting in my favorite chair. She looked exactly like Vivian, but her hair was shorter, her clothes different. She was holding a baby that could have been Luna's twin, but she was rocking nervously, constantly checking over her shoulder like she was afraid of something. Then I saw myself walk into the frame, but it wasn't me. This version of me moved differently, spoke differently. His voice was cold, calculated, and he was holding a knife. "You can't keep running forever," the other me said to the other Vivian. "I know what you did. I know you've been planning to leave me." "David, please," the other Vivian pleaded. "Think about Luna. She needs her mother. Luna needs a mother who isn't a lying, cheating whore." I watched in horror as this twisted version of myself raised the knife. The other Vivian screamed, clutching the baby to her chest. The other me moved with deadly precision, and within seconds, it was over. The screen flickered back to Luna's nursery. She was sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that her father had just witnessed her mother's murder in some parallel dimension. I sat there shaking, trying to process what I'd seen. It had to be a nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination brought on by too little sleep and too much new parent anxiety. But it felt so real. The voices, the details, the way the other Vivian had looked at me with absolute terror in her eyes. The next morning, I couldn't look at Vivian without seeing that other version of her, covered in blood, pleading for her life. When she asked what was wrong, I made up some excuse about work stress. How could I tell her I'd watched myself murder her? But the visions kept coming. Every night, the monitor would flicker to this other reality. I started taking notes, documenting the differences. In this other world, Vivian worked at a different job. We'd had different arguments. I discovered she was having an affair with her boss, something that had never happened in our reality, as far as I knew. The other me was consumed with rage and jealousy. He'd been planning Vivian's murder for weeks, studying her routine, figuring out how to make it look like an accident. The baby monitor was somehow showing me his timeline, his reality, leading up to that horrible night. But here's what really terrified me. The timelines were starting to sync up. In the other reality, Vivian had started working late more often. She'd been taking mysterious phone calls, stepping outside to talk in private. She'd been distant, distracted, like she was planning something. And in my reality, Vivian had just started doing the exact same things. It began with small changes. She'd accepted a promotion at work that required longer hours. She'd started going to team building dinners that kept her out until midnight. Her phone was always buzzing with messages she'd quickly hide when I walked into the room. "It's just work stuff," she'd say, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust the woman I'd married, the mother of my child. But every night, the monitor showed me where this path led. I watched the other me discover the affair, saw how it drove him to madness, witnessed the moment he snapped and became a killer. The worst part was that I understood his anger. As Vivian grew more distant, as the mysterious calls increased, as she started lying about where she'd been, I felt that same rage building inside me. The same jealousy, the same desire to confront her, to make her pay for what she was doing to our family. Was I going crazy, Or was I seeing a glimpse of my own future? 3 weeks after the first vision, I made a decision that changed everything. I followed Vivian to one of her work dinners. She wasn't at a restaurant. She wasn't with colleagues. She was at a hotel downtown, walking hand in hand with a man I'd never seen before. They disappeared into the elevator together, and I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching them through the lobby windows when they finally came back down. The other Vivian hadn't been paranoid. She really was having an affair. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. Luna was crying when I walked in. The babysitter said she'd been fussy all evening, like she could sense something was wrong. As I held my daughter, rocking her gently, I felt that familiar rage building inside me. The same rage I'd seen in the other me. The same cold calculation. The same desire for revenge. That's when I realized the truth. The baby monitor wasn't showing me another reality. It was showing me a warning. A glimpse of what I would become if I let the anger consume me. The other me wasn't from a parallel universe. He was from my own future, a timeline where I discovered Vivian's affair and let it drive me to murder. But knowing the future meant I could change it. Instead of confronting Vivian in rage, I confronted her with love. Instead of accusations, I offered understanding. Instead of demands, I asked questions. I know about the affair, I said simply when she came home that night. I know about Mark from your office. I know you've been planning to leave me. She broke down immediately, sobbing as she confessed everything. The affair had started months ago. She'd been planning to ask for a divorce, but was terrified of how I'd react. She'd seen the way I looked at her sometimes, like I was barely containing my anger. I was afraid you'd hurt me, she whispered. Or take Luna away. I didn't know how to tell you. We talked until dawn. We cried. We fought. We made plans to fix what was broken between us. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't immediate, but we both committed to trying. The next night, I checked the baby monitor one last time. Instead of the violent scene I'd witnessed so many times before, I saw something different. The other Sarah was packing a suitcase while the other me slept. She was leaving quietly, taking the baby with her, running away to start a new life somewhere safe. In that timeline, she'd chosen escape over confrontation. The other me would wake up alone, his family gone, his life shattered. But no one would die. No one would be hurt. The monitor flickered back to Luna's nursery. She was sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. In the morning, Vivian and I would start marriage counseling. We'd begin the long process of rebuilding trust. We'd fight for our family instead of destroying it. I never saw the other timeline again. The baby monitor went back to its normal function, just watching over our daughter as she slept. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if that other me is still out there somewhere, dealing with the consequences of choices I was lucky enough to avoid. The baby monitor didn't just expose my neighbor's secret. It exposed the darkest potential of my own heart. And in doing so, it saved us all. Vivian and I are still together. Our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. Luna is now walking, talking, and completely unaware that she once lived in a house where her parents were headed toward tragedy. But I still check the monitor every night, just to make sure we're the only ones on the feed. Because I learned something that night that I'll never forget. The most dangerous neighbor you can have is the person you might become if you're not careful. The future isn't set in stone. It's just a warning of what could happen if you make the wrong choices. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get the chance to choose differently.
The baby on the monitor wasn't mine. I stared at the screen, filled with confusion, watching a child I'd never seen before, sleeping peacefully in what looked exactly like my son's nursery. Same yellow walls, same wooden crib, same mobile with dancing elephants casting shadows in the dim light. But my son was downstairs with me, eating breakfast and smearing banana across his high chair. My hands shook as I checked the device settings. Camera 1. Donald's room. Connected. Recording. The timestamp showed live feed, but the child on screen had dark hair. Donald is blonde. This baby was smaller, maybe 8 months old instead of Donald's 15 months. I ran upstairs, Donald babbling behind me in his high chair. His nursery was exactly as I'd left it. Empty crib, Morning sunlight streaming through windows. Everything normal. I checked behind the furniture, in the closet, even looked up at the ceiling mount where our camera sat, its red light blinking steadily. Back downstairs, the monitor still showed the dark-haired baby. But now something else caught my attention. In the corner of the screen, barely visible, was a figure sitting in what should have been the rocking chair. A woman, watching the sleeping child, watching, and writing in a notebook. I grabbed my phone and called my husband. "George, something's wrong with the baby monitor. I'm seeing someone else's feed and—" "Amanda, stop." His voice was strained. "Don't touch anything. I'm coming home." "What?" "Why, just wait for me. Lock the doors. Keep Donald with you." The line went dead. I looked back at the monitor. The woman was gone, but now I could see her notebook left open on the chair. Even through the grainy video, I could make out photos taped to the pages, photos of babies. Lots of them. And there, on the top right corner of the page, a photo of Donald. My blood ran cold as I realized what I was seeing wasn't a glitch or crossed signals. I was looking at a room designed to be identical to my son's nursery. Someone had recreated it perfectly, down to the paint color and furniture placement. But why? The dark-haired baby on screen began to stir, making soft crying sounds. That's when I heard it. Those same cries, faint but real, coming from somewhere in my house. They weren't coming through the monitor speakers. They were coming from below me. I'd lived in this house for 3 years. There was no basement. The foundation was concrete slab. But those cries were definitely coming from beneath my feet, from a space that shouldn't exist. Donald started fussing in his high chair, as if responding to the other baby's cries. I scooped him up, backing toward the front door, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "He's beautiful when he sleeps. The buyer is very excited to meet him." Attached was a photo taken through my living room window. Me, holding Donald, taken just seconds ago. I ran. Didn't grab keys, didn't grab a purse, just held my son and ran straight to my neighbor's house, pounding on the door while screaming for help. Mrs. Rose called the police while I sobbed incoherently about monitors and basements and stolen babies. When the authorities arrived, they found it, a hidden basement, accessed through a concealed panel in my pantry. The stairs led down to a perfect replica of Donald's nursery, where 4 other babies, all reported missing over the past 8 months, were being held in identical cribs. The dark-haired baby I'd seen on the monitor was the most recent victim, taken just 2 days before. The woman in the chair was the previous homeowner's daughter. She'd kept a key, and had been slowly, methodically, converting the hidden space into what police called a staging area. The baby monitor hack was her surveillance system, letting her study each child's routine, learn their patterns, and plan the perfect moment for replacement. She'd been living in my walls for months. The notebook contained detailed profiles of dozens of families, their daily schedules, and buyers lined up for what she called her perfectly trained inventory. The babies weren't just kidnapped. They were being conditioned in replica environments to minimize trauma during the transition to new families. Donald was supposed to be taken that afternoon, during his usual nap time, replaced with a realistic doll for just long enough to complete the delivery. By the time I'd have discovered the switch, we'd have been states away. The 4 babies they rescued are home with their families now. The woman was sentenced to life without parole. The house was demolished. No one wanted to live where something so twisted had happened. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear those cries. Not from a monitor. I'll never own another electronic device that watches my children. But from my memory. The sound of babies crying in darkness, waiting for parents who might never have found them. I watch Donald sleep now with my own eyes, from a chair beside his bed. Call it paranoia, but I've learned that sometimes the technology meant to give you peace of mind is exactly what steals it away. Trust me. Some kinds of watching should never be outsourced.